Hello and happy Sunday. Welcome back to Witches of the Moon. I'm Eva Maria, your Sunday co-host, and this week for Deity Week, I'm going to be speaking a little bit about Loki, and there are a few reasons why I decided to speak about Loki. The first reason is that Loki is, I think, largely misunderstood. And another reason why I chose to speak about Loki is that he does tend to be a controversial figure in certain circles, and I'm not a person that shies away from controversy, so I thought that maybe this would be a good figure for me to speak about. And I feel that there is much that maybe I can bring to the discussion by sort of bringing to light some information regarding this this figure. I want to say figure because it's debated whether or not he's a deity. I think that I could, by bringing information about this figure to light, sort of to the forefront, I think I can contribute something beneficial to this discussion this week. So that in mind, I want to return back to what I said about Loki often being misunderstood. He is seen as mainly negative by some people, when in actuality he is not all good or all bad. In fact, he's very complex. He's so complex, and there's so much depth to him and his role and his mythology, in fact, that I doubt that I can paint a complete picture of him in this brief video, but I'm going to try to sum him up as well as I can. And I'll be sharing some links to some further information on Loki as well in the description box, so be sure to look for those links after you've watched this video. Also, I'd like to talk about the fact that it's debatable whether or not Loki is a god. Historically, there is no evidence that Loki was worshipped as a deity. I've read this, and while I understand that no archaeological evidence has come to light, or no written evidence to that effect has come to light, I feel that a lack of evidence does not mean that it is impossible that he was worshipped historically, or that he was venerated in some way historically. It just means that there is not evidence that we have found. That's all that that really means. So it is up for debate. You're going to have some people that are going to say he is a deity, and you're going to have some people that are going to say, no, 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 he is a figure in this mythology. And again, you're going to have some people that are going to be like, well, he's a beneficial figure. Some are going to say he's a negative figure. Some are going to say he's, like I'm saying, some are going to say he's a little bit more complex. He's not, all, cut and dry, black and white, this way and that way, or whatever. Excuse me. Now, Loki, he is a giant, and according to the mythology, he is a giant that was accepted and went among the gods. And I believe that he yet goes among the gods, while some would disagree with me. And I think that this is very important, the fact that he is of another race, and yet he is accepted by the gods. The reason why I think this is important is because in some circles, there are some people that believe that in order to follow the northern or Teutonic sort of path, that you have to be of Germanic or Norse or some similar lineage. But I feel that in looking at Loki being a giant, being a figure from a different race that goes among the gods and is accepted by them, it kind of goes to show that the gods don't care that he's different. It's the content of who he is that matters. So therefore, I think it stands to reason that as people, it doesn't so much matter what race you are or what ethnicity or what your heritage is. It's not about that. It's the content of your character, and it's about, are you approaching that path with sincerity, a desire to learn, respect, etc. So I think that is something that is important, the fact that he is different but accepted. The fact that he is different yet brings much to the table. Whether or not he can be classified as a god, again, I feel he has much to teach. I feel that Loki embodies the fool archetype. He is much like the fool in the tarot. To a degree, Loki is a trickster. He is a jester. And as such, we should consider the fool, the trickster, the jester archetypes. They sort of have associations, and their teachings and their roles concern concepts of change, daring and bravery in the face of adversity, questioning, seeking, new beginnings, cleverness, innovation, pushing the envelope, and other associations that tend to lie within the realm of the mind, individuality, creativity, and not just accepting or going along with the status quo. Excuse me. These archetypes are sort of revolutionary. They stir things up to the right degree so that things don't remain stagnant. Growth comes out of questioning and change and all this kind of good stuff. So I feel that's something to be considered as well, that Loki does fall into that fool, jester, trickster sort of archetypal, that he falls into that realm, that's the sort of figure that he is. It should also be considered, I think, that Loki is responsible for many positive contributions to the gods. According to the mythology, by Loki's craftiness, for example, Thor got his hammer and Odin got his horse Sleipnir. These are only two examples, however, of the positive things that came to the gods by way of Loki's craftiness. So this clearly indicates that Loki serves a purpose even to the gods. Excuse me, I'm sorry that I'm coughing so much. I don't know. Another way in which Loki plays a positive role is in his reoccurring role as solution finder and waymaker. In many of the mythological tales, it is he who helps to find solutions to problems faced by the gods, whether or not he had a role in kind of getting the gods into those messes in the first place. So clearly, he has a purpose. He has a value. There's validity to the figure that he is in the mythology. And that makes sense because entities within mythologies seldom have no purpose, if ever. I think they always have a purpose, some purpose. Also, I'd like to bring to light that I doubt some of the later stories that kind of paint Loki in a really sort of evil light. And the reason why is because if you go and look at the evolution, the history of the mythology, he only begins to get really twisted and dark in the later years when it is by a biased author or authors that he is written about, at a time also when sort of Christianity is sort of being imposed upon the old religion. So I think that kind of sheds some doubt, it gives some reasonable doubt. It leaves you questioning, are these stories real, or are these stories sort of propaganda to kind of paint this figure as negative for some reason? I mean, it's funny too if you look at the myth of the death of Balder, how Balder takes on the whole story. It's sort of like, it's sort of similar to like the Christ mythos, and you're kind of sitting there going, you know, Balder is a lot like Jesus. I wonder why, you know, and I think those later stories should be questioned. But that's just my view. You may disagree with me there. I just personally, I think it's something to be looked into. And now, as for correspondences, Loki lacks a clearly defined list of correspondences, and there's a reason why. There's actually a few reasons why. Well, the first one is that, well, not everybody worships Loki as a god. Some people debate whether he is a god, so therefore I don't think anyone really sat down and said, let's really list his correspondences out. That's the first main reason that I can think of. And the second reason is that as a shapeshifter, he tends to show a different face, so to speak, to each devotee, you know, depending on their, I think, needs, situation, perception, and also through a devotee's personal gnosis, Loki will approach that devotee in a different way. So that's something to be considered. It's hard to really say. I mean, I could sit here and start listing out some things that I associate maybe with him, but I don't think that would be, I don't think that would necessarily be beneficial in this case, because he really has such a depth to him, and I mean there's a debate as to his correspondences to begin with. So I'm going to leave that a little open-ended. He doesn't have a clearly defined list of correspondences. That's one thing to be considered. Now, assuming that you want to know more about Loki, because, you know, some of you may be more interested in finding out more, and maybe some of you are like, oh, yeah, it's cool, but no, you know, whatever. So for those of you that are interested, you can refer to my informational links I'm going to have in the description box with this video. I recommend that maybe you do some research, read the mythology, maybe speak to some Lokians, you know. But I will say, I do also recommend that you take what you hear or read with a grain of salt. And that's because, you know, there is some misinformation or some propaganda, or there is variances between, you know, certain people's personal gnosis, like their personal experience of Loki may vary because that's their personal experience, while someone else's experience will be different. You know, there's that to be considered. So, you know, do keep that in mind. You know, take what you find with a grain of salt. Find the truth for yourself. That's something I always recommend. And I feel that it's also worth remembering that one of Loki's greatest teachings is that few things are actually how or what they appear to be at first glance. So, I hope in this brief video that I have given you some things, some pertinent information, some things to think about, a jumping off point if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Loki. Again, it's really hard to sum him up as a figure because there is just so much to him. He's very complex. But I hope that I hope I've done Loki justice here, and I hope I've brought something worth thinking about to the discussion at hand this week. With that in mind, I wish you blessed be and ashe, and until next time, have yourself a great Sunday. Please, if you have comments, questions, thoughts, etc., do put them in the comment box, and also I will try to address those as best as I can. Thanks. Bye-bye for now.